Hello, comic book fans. This is Pete from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my good friend over there, Brian, discuss movies and streaming shows that have been adapted from comics. Brian, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Pete. We're doing this a little later of a time.
Yes. Who knows?
Actually,
Maybe
we used to do these late, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah. I'm very rigid with my time. It's like we either record 7 in the morning on Saturdays or like 4 my time during the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll get like a viewer or two. What?
Maybe.
Oh my God. So today you want to tell everybody what we're here to discuss?
We are talking about the episodes 6 and 7 of Creature Commandos, which finished today.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And so my first question for you about Creature Commandos is, do you think the show peaked with episode 5, Chasing Squirrels?
That is a great question. Potentially. I don't think. I think both episodes 6 and 7 are fantastic, but I think maybe. No. Chasing Squirrels was 4, wasn't it?
It was.
Okay. Sorry, I'm reading the ticker as I'm thinking about it. Yeah,
I put the wrong one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Whoops.
No. You have the right title. It's the wrong number, I think.
Wrong number. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that probably was one of the better episodes, if not the best. But I honestly, I don't think there's a bad episode of the bunch here.
Totally agree. So episode 6 then is called Priyatel Skelet, which I'm assuming is like pretty skeleton. Like a little girl calls Dr. Phosphorus Priyatel Skelet. And so I don't know. What do you interpret it as?
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, I suppose. I've really enjoyed how the episode titles are set in the show. I don't know why. Sometimes it's cheesy, sometimes it's cool. But I feel like this show, I'm like, oh, that's the title.
They said the thing. Yeah, absolutely. But here's the thing. I noticed when she said it on the show, but did I miss fucking Batman in this episode?
Yes, Batman was in this episode. Yes,
like they literally showed Batman.
Yes, yeah.
What the fuck?
So you remember when we did the Cape Crusader?
Yes.
And I commented how Batman broke through like an obscene amount of skylights.
Yes.
Well, this time he didn't. He was just standing out there, and he didn't break in this time.
Oh, okay. So they just show him wanting to jump through a skylight?
Yeah, he's standing outside a skylight. You see like the lightning go off, and you see his silhouette there. You see some color. He doesn't speak. He doesn't really move. It's just his cape kind of flapping in the wind.
Wow.
I think it's after they kill the Rupert Thorne.
Yeah. Dude, I should just turn in my fucking YouTube podcast license if I didn't even fucking notice Batman. That's bad.
It was real quick. It really was.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, okay. Then that episode was great. We got Gotham, obviously, because Batman's in it, right? And Rupert Thorne, I remember him from the animated series.
Same here.
Have you ever seen him in any comics?
I was actually wondering if he was original for the animated series. That was my first exposure to him, but it's possible. It's entirely possible he was there in the comics first, or has been since.
Yeah. Well, he's in this, and do you know who the voice actor is by any chance?
Oh, for Thorne, no, I don't. But I have noticed that Alan Tudyk does a lot of other characters in the show.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's him for that.
He's more than 2 dicks, man. He's like 15 dicks.
That's a great joke.
Thank you. I get 1 per episode, so it's pretty good. Not only does he do comedy, he does fucking tragedy. And this episode just has this awful, awful moment in it.
Yes. So Dr. Phosphorus, I forget his actual name.
It's like Victor Sioris. Well, that's fucking Black Mask, right?
Yeah, Sionis, but Roman Sionis is Black Mask. But
I think his name is close to that, though. It's like very similar to. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, he's a scientist. He's working on something. He kind of gets involved with the mob so they can take advantage of him. And he gives them fake information, and in retaliation, they murder his family in front of him.
Yeah.
and then place him inside his creation, kind of reminiscent of like the Hulk or Dr. Manhattan.
Right.
And gets nuked and turns into the glowing green skeleton that we all know and love.
Yes. It was very reminiscent of Dr. Manhattan because essentially, like, you think he's going to get obliterated, but his skeleton remains. I looked up his name. His real name is Alexander Sartorius.
Okay, yeah.
So, okay. But like watching his origin story, like every main character on the show, their backstory is a downer.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
It is so reminiscent of like how I would view Doom Patrol, honestly.
Yes, yeah,
all their backstories were downers too. Their entire lives kind of were. But it's just like that mixed with Suicide Squad in a way.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. But I feel like there's like a pattern here, right? Like, because I feel like for every one of the monsters, they have this thing where something horrific has happened. They're an outcast. Something horrible happened to them. Then they start to come to like terms with what they are. And then after they come to terms with what they are, something tragic happens to them.
Now, so wait a minute. Are you talking about Creature Commandos or Doom Patrol? Because really, it's the same thing.
Same shit, right? Different toilet. But no. With this, like, it's this show, right? Because but I feel like there's one exception. Because I feel like Phosphorus, he has the tragic thing happen to him when he's a human, and then he becomes a monster. And I feel like out of all of the Creature Commandos, I feel like he's the closest to evil out of all.
Yes. He's definitely only doing this because he's going to get his head exploded otherwise.
Yeah.
Like he has, there is no morals with Dr. Phosphorus, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, okay, so then you were saying that like the one scene where his origin scene is very reminiscent of like Dr. Manhattan, where he's put in that machine. I thought that the whole sequence with him and the girl and like, what the fuck's the name of the country? It's like Pakistan.
Pakistan, yeah.
Yeah. I felt like that whole sequence was very reminiscent of like Steve Buscemi's sequence in Con Air.
Yeah.
Right?
Good point.
Yeah, thank you. And so like I was just kind of wondering, is this like James Gunn's thing? Where it's like, in Peacemaker, Guardians of the Galaxy, you essentially have broken characters throughout, right? The Guardians, Peacemaker, the Creature Commandos, they're all broken characters, and most of them have pretty horrific backstories, right?
Yeah, and I think you can extend that beyond his superhero work. Well, no, it's not beyond superhero work. I was going to say add super to the mix.
Okay.
Really, same thing. Broken person, horrific tragedies.
Right.
So
like, with the Guardians, it's like, okay, Drax's whole family was slaughtered. Rocket, we eventually learned that he had this horrible experimentation done on him, and he had these friends, and they were all killed. Peter Quill, when we first introduced to him, his mom dies of cancer. Peacemaker, like he accidentally killed his brother, right? When he was younger.
Yeah.
Right? And then like each one of these fucking characters, they all have these horrible backstories.
Yeah. Maybe with the no, I was gonna say the exception of Flag, but I mean I guess his son died. So
his son, exactly. And we've even seen that like in a James Gunn thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. He created the tragedy there.
Right, exactly. So like that's the whole thing going on with Phosphorus. It's cool because we see Gotham. There's this really great sequence where like he does this kind of dance number with his like skeleton henchmen. And I think I mentioned this last time, but it reminded me of the band Ghost because they have like little dancers that look like that too.
I can see that, yeah.
But besides that, in this episode, we also get the bride and what's the fish girl's name?
Nina McCursky.
Okay, so Nina and the bride, they're gonna go hang out in a brothel. And I think that there was like sort of like a little moral to that story too, because like the madam, the head of the brothel, like she basically explains like a disgusted bride that it's like, yes, these women use their bodies to give people pleasure. That's how they survive, right? And then, she's like, you use your bodies, your monster bodies to kill people. So the whole idea is like using their bodies for different reasons, right?
Yeah, no, it was a nice analogy to it. Also, you have to point out that the voice of the madam was, I'm going to butcher this name, Shura Agdashlu.
That was beautiful.
Anyway, we've seen her in many things, but most recently in Penguin, she was Maroni's wife there. So
she is in a ton of shit, man.
She really is, and her voice is fantastic and unmistakable.
Yeah. Oh, is she in The Expanse?
In The Expanse, maybe.
Oh, did you watch The Expanse?
I watched the first season of The Expanse.
Okay, I'm pretty sure she's like one of the main characters in that. But yeah, she is in everything, and her voice does stand out too. I always like my mind gets blown that the bride is.
She is.
Dude, you're like a research machine, man. Good job. But I was gonna say, like, the bride is that woman from Dorne, right? That was with
correct. Yeah.
That just blows my mind because I don't really feel like her voice matches.
So yes. But I'm used to her voice because she's also in Vox Machina. She's not one of the main party members, but she's like a side character that's been in every season. So
oh fuck, do I have to watch that too?
It's really good.
Dude, it's so funny. You know, this is how they keep us fucking enslaved and how the world is so messed up. It's just like, oh, you want to start a revolution? Guess what? We made a Spinges cartoon, you know, or guess the biker boys from Mars are making a comeback.
I would watch the shit out of a Spinges cartoon.
Oh my god, fuck yeah! I mean, I should write it, but it'd be so stupid. But yeah, she's in that. But then, like, I'm thinking how like they're talking about this fucking show that you and I were talking about, Pantheon.
Oh my god,
good, right?
Pantheon is. I'm only 2 episodes into it, but it is fantastic. It brought a tear to my eye at the end of the 2nd episode. I will say that. That's how quickly it got me.
Yeah, damn, man. And then, like, you know, The Expanse, for some reason, I'm kind of like, yeah, I want to watch that show. And I started listening to the 2nd book. I read the first one. Then, like, that's on Apple, right?
The Expanse was Amazon, I think.
Oh,
no, okay. I'm sorry. It was Sci-Fi, and then Amazon finished it.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's just like there's so much fucking content to watch, you know? And, you know, The Severance is coming back. Did you ever watch the first season of that?
Oh my god, we've watched the first episode like 3 times, and then we got the 2nd episode. And it's amazing, but something always gets in the way. Like one of us starts falling asleep, and then we're just like, oh well, this other thing came out, we got to do this too. And that's on high on my list to finish, but I refuse to rewatch the first episode again because I've seen it like 4 times.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of good content out there, and we're lucky that like what we're currently reviewing was enjoyable too. And so to kind of bring it back, like there's this great little sequence where Weasel is with a bunch of wolves too.
Yes, and it's funny because you see that scene there, and you think either something bad's going to happen or the wolves are going to come into play later, but they kind of don't. Like I thought, like he was going to like lead the wolf pack to like I don't know, fight against the knights or something, but no, he just has a nice moment of peace and then gets up and realizes that he has to go back.
Right. And so, like, I felt like it was just this kind of aside, like you're saying, where it's just like this fun little thing, but it has no consequences. And then that kind of brings up this other point I wanted to ask you about, which is like the last episode, 7, a very funny monster. I feel like there's all this stuff that's kind of brought up and there's this momentum going, but then I feel like it just kind of fizzles out with this last episode. Do you feel that way?
I was expecting a bigger climax, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because how they resolve the conflict, and then it's just like, okay, there's going to be more content now. You know?
Right.
I think that I found the explanation for what they did at the end to be a little confusing.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me.
So ultimately, they stop the princess from getting killed, but Nina dies in the process. Then the bride kind of deduces that, you know what, I think you are actually evil, and I think it was right, and I think all these events here you kind of engineered to happen to make you seem innocent. And she kills the princess there, and then that's kind of it. Like then the next scene is back in Bel Rev, and it's like, oh yeah, here's your new team members. Here's your little section in here. There's gonna be more stuff.
Right.
I feel like they didn't really resolve what happened in Pakistan, the aftermath of that. Like how did they? I mean, I guess we saw them walk out at least, but they assassinated a leader of a country,
right?
Of a country, and then they don't tell you anything about what happens.
Right. And I think I'd hate to say this, but I think that like what got me the most excited watching this show was this weird fucking vision that Cersei has of Pakistan attacking the rest of the world, all these heroes getting killed, Gorilla Grodd being there. Like, to me, I was like, oh, what is this? Like, what is this weird overarching story that they're kind of hinting at? And then it's like, well, is none of this going to happen then at all?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like they teased you with this really big, crazy thing. And ultimately, they couldn't actually have it happen because you can't kill all the heroes of the universe before it even begins.
Right.
But it's such a tease ultimately, and it's just not resolved. I mean, maybe they can do something where similar events happen anyway, but they're just going to happen differently, like kind of like this fate is determined sort of thing. And it's just, even though you kind of did something to interfere, it's still going to end up that way anyway, but just by different means. But I don't know if they're thinking that far ahead. But like, yes, that was a huge tease, and they just kind of swept us under the rug now. Oh, you frozen or are you thinking? Oh, Pete's frozen. That means I have to talk. All right, we'll be back in a second here. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Just hang tight.
Okay, we're still here. All right. Oh man, I'm fucking edging with like speculation right now. Like, we're so close to. We're getting on a good track. We're talking about exactly what we want to talk about, and then just fucking knocked off the internet.
The internet says it wasn't ready for your thought process.
I guess not, but I mean, Brian, you used to work in radio, right? Like, there's nothing better for radio than just dead air, right?
Oh God, no.
All right. So let's get back to what we're talking about. So, Cersei's vision, right? They have a different name for every kind of phase of the DCU. I know the first one's called Gods and Monsters. Did they name the other two?
If they did, I do not remember what they are.
Okay. Like, let's just say for argument's sake, and I'm not going to make this long. I just want to hear your take on this. Let's just say for argument's sake that there's supposed to be a character that the princess essentially had the role of this time around, but then she got killed, so she's not fulfilling that role. And so maybe as we go further and further into DCU, there's going to be another situation like this where it's like, now this character can be the one that brings on the apocalypse, and maybe that person gets killed too. And then eventually, once we reach some sort of like big climax, Infinity War type movie, then it actually happens. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying there. And I also don't want to rule out that there wasn't some other force involved with kind of guiding the princess in a way, or possessing the princess. So, and that maybe that while they actually killed the princess's body, whatever was manipulating her or controlling or whatever is still out there and can do it with somebody else. That could be a path they can take as well.
Really, really excellent point. And I think one thing that is evidence for that is when she kills Nina, right? It's Nina.
Yes.
You said before, when she kills Nina, her eyes almost seem to kind of glow blue, don't they?
I didn't notice that.
I know that like when she's stabbing her, has a very cold, ruthless look on her face.
Yeah, so maybe she was possessed or controlled by some other force or item or something like that.
Yeah, because I think her eyes are just blue to begin with, but they almost look like they were glowing.
Yeah, I still just find it hard to believe that this country and this princess and her knights, as technologically advanced as they seem to be, which also doesn't make sense because it seems like a relatively poor country overall,
right.
Visually at least.
Right.
I don't understand, even with the addition of like Gorilla Grodd or whatever they're doing, how they killed all those people.
Right, exactly.
In the vision. So there's definitely something else there, and I hope that they explore it in future movies, in the season 2 of the show, and I hope that isn't just the end of it right there.
1,000% agree. Like I know that in Marvel, and I mean you know this, but maybe our viewers don't. But like there's a character called Malice, for instance, right? Where like Malice takes over people's bodies. You can usually tell they're possessed because like Malice has like a little kind of choker thing on her neck, and people wear it when they're possessed. Like, is there a DC villain that's like that where they just kind of body hop?
Yeah, and then is that villain powerful enough to pull something like that off?
Yeah. Like I was thinking, like I'm just pulling this out of my ass, but like Eclipso, like Eclipso does have hosts,
yeah,
just like Dr. Fate. I don't know, like they haven't really used Eclipso, or did they fucking use Eclipso in one of those horrible movies?
I don't think so.
No. So I mean, it could be something like that. I don't know. I mean, you're 100% on the money where it's like, how could this backwards kind of country, this third world seeming country, destroy the Justice League and stuff? Yeah. I think I was watching a video. I think one of the YouTube channels I watched, the Black Lion, he was pointing out, he's like, they've torn through these soldiers before, just the creature commandos.
Yep.
So like, how could they take on like Superman and Batman?
Yeah. There's a big hole in the plot there.
Yeah.
That doesn't explain it.
But
even still though, like just the journey of this situation and the characters.
Yeah,
and you're filling out their backstories and all that. It was really good. Like it was entertaining even without that resolution.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you watched all of Lost, right?
Yes.
I mean, Lost, they're essentially doing the same thing as Lost. Many shows do this now, where it's like there's the present day story, but then we do little flashbacks to see how the person got there. And sometimes the flashback stories in Lost were better than what was going on the island.
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like that's what's going on this show. Like, we see Nina's origin, and I gotta hear, like, what'd you think of like her as a baby wearing that oxygen suit?
Oh man, it was heartbreaking to see, honestly. Just the thing that got me the most was the conversation between the mother and the father, where the mother's like essentially like, we should have killed her on the spot.
Yeah,
should have put her through this. And then the argument there is just horrific, honestly.
No, I understand. Yeah,
it's very debatable on both sides, I suppose.
Yeah. When I was a kid or maybe a teenager, there was somebody being interviewed on like 2020 or something, and she had a kid that had this rare condition where like they were just being like, they were tortured like every day by their physical ailments, and like their body was breaking down. And the mom said something along the lines of like, if I had known this would have happened, I wouldn't have given birth to her. And I thought about that when watching this. It's like, is it right just for the sake of having a person be alive for them to just be miserable for their whole life?
Yeah.
But luckily, we live in a society where we can comment on those things and people are going to have rational responses.
Yes.
No, the scene that really fucked me up is that scene was great, the one you just mentioned. But then when he's just walking with her and she's kind of a toddler and she's sweating and just like
Yeah,
struggling to breathe. Awful.
yeah. They're walking towards the playground. She's clearly under duress there, which then fuels them to kind of do the genetic experiments on her that turns her into the fish creature that we see in the show here. I also find it incredibly ironic that she's essentially the only character that didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
And is the only one that actually dies.
Yep. I mean, that's definitely a statement unto itself, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think another statement the show is trying to make is basically like, if you love a monster, you're doomed.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, like her dad, and I feel like her dad was voiced by Alan 15 Dix too.
Yes, I think he was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the dad, I knew like as soon as the cops were like, stay back, and the dad runs up to go see her, I'm like, okay, the cops are going to shoot.
He's going to get killed.
Yeah. Cops are not that great on this show.
No.
So one thing I wanted to point out too that I really loved is when Nina goes to kill the princess, there is a shot that is straight out of the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yep.
And
it was a nice homage there. Yeah. Visual looked very good. And I really thought she was going to do it too, because she hadn't really done anything the entire series, essentially. Right. So it makes sense that the princess would be in the water, and then the only person that could do it would be her. And then, clearly she couldn't.
Yeah.
I was sad to see it happen. I thought maybe that she might have lived through it somehow. Like, oh, she just got stabbed once, she'll be okay. Oh no, that's about 20 more. I visually see her guts hanging out, sort of,
Yeah, so awful. So Blackline, he's the one that I watched the video of, and he's the one that made that comment about the bad cops in the DCU so far. So I'm kind of stealing his comment, but then he was annoyed because he felt like that was sort of anticlimactic for her. Like every other character kind of has a role in this show and does something, but he felt like she didn't really do anything. Do you feel like that's the case, or?
I think, I mean, maybe this is a variation on fridging, I suppose, but I think she supplies the bride with the motivation to kind of figure out what was going on and then kill the princess. I think without Nina dying there, the princess would be alive.
Beautifully put. I think you're right. Yeah. Well, speaking of the bride, and speaking of, if you love a monster, you're doomed. We have the reunion between Eric Frankenstein and the bride. Yes. And that also kind of feels anticlimactic too, because it's sort of like he's been trying to get to her the whole season, and it just shoots him.
Well, yeah. I mean, ultimately, he does get the line across to saying, that that she tries to say the professor wasn't who they said they were, which allows the bride to connect the dots and figure out that, the princess really should be killed. So there is a purpose to it there. And then also, I mean, he's not dead. So
no, right. Yeah. He's coming back. And I really loved like that little post-credit scene where he's with the gypsy. Well, I don't think we're even allowed to call people gypsies at this point, right? Like
he's with another old lady nursing back to health. We know how that's going to work out.
Yeah. And I love that fucking joke where it's like, it's Sparrow dropping soup or something.
Yeah.
That's fucking disgusting.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the topic of Frankenstein, I had commented earlier on our previous review that I was kind of disappointed in how they portrayed him, because I do see the DC version of Frankenstein to be more of a heroic figure.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't think I would change it for the show. I actually really like what they did with it, as much as it's out of what I expected.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like when they make a change and it makes the character more compelling, I don't care if they make the change.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let me ask you this. Would you say that the Miles Morales that's in Into the Spider-Verse is more interesting than the Marvel Comics Miles Morales?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's where the popularity came from, was that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think I mean, I have not read all that many Miles Morales Spider-Man stories. I probably read maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Like arcs here and there depending on various continuities, like, the original Ultimate version, him in the 616, all that stuff. I don't think he ever really found his groove
Yeah.
in the comics
Yeah.
like he did in those movies.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like another show I want to give credit to. I'm just plugging all these shows that people actually go listen and watch. But like it's called Amazing Spider Talk, and I love the two hosts. And they're the ones that made that point of like Miles in the comics is just not as interesting as Miles in the movie. Like that's the reason why people like Miles is because of the movies, like you said.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot of the Ram V,
the movies and the game.
Oh, I haven't played the game.
The PlayStation game are more. He's better in both of those things than he is in the actual comics.
See, okay, I suck at the game. Like when I play the Miles Morales PS4 game, I go chase the Rhino in like the first 5 minutes of the game, and he always gets away, and then I lose.
I mean, there's no shame in lowering the difficulty of these games these days. They are complicated, and we are getting older.
Yeah, dude, I got to lower it to the lowest possible level, like toddler level. But all right, so bringing it back to the show. Oh, another example though, and this is James Gunn, is I feel like all the Marvel Guardians are now just basically the movie Guardians and not their original comic book versions.
Yes, because they, although that kind of reboot of them with Annihilation was fantastic.
Absolutely.
They didn't really super take off in comics, I guess, until these movies came out.
Right.
And then yes, they absolutely want that synergy between the movie and the books. So maybe some people see the movie, and they want to find out a little more, and maybe they get that casual reader that may pick up a book because it resembles what they saw in the movie.
Right.
They want a little bit more. You always want a little bit more.
Exactly. And like just going along with James Gunn, like bringing new life to these characters, like Peacemaker. Nobody gave a shit about Peacemaker in the comics.
Yeah, I certainly didn't. I barely knew who he was. I'd seen him before. I don't think I ever read anything with him beforehand. But now, I mean, because of James Gunn, because of John Cena, he's fantastic. That's a fantastic show that I'm very excited to see the next season 2 of.
Yeah, shit, yeah. Yeah, and I was even excited to see like Peacemakers in Absolute Superman too.
Yeah, and Christopher Smith is one of those Peacemakers.
Okay.
How about I spoil that for you? I think that was issue 2.
Yeah, like he starts attacking civilians, and then they say something like, "Chris, what are you doing?" Right?
Yeah.
I didn't read. Is issue 3 out already?
I haven't been to the store in 3 weeks, so I'm 3 weeks behind. But I think by this week, all 3 books should have come out again. I think.
Yeah, man, they're coming out a lot. Yeah, so I got 2 more questions, and of course, if you want more stuff to add to it, but I was gonna say, do you think that Clayface is like truly dead?
Oh man, given that they went back to the house and he's still splattered all over the place, I'm assuming but at the same time, we also know that there's going to be a Clayface movie. So unless that's and then it very possibly could be a prequel. Yeah, completely. It seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also possible that Clayface is like in his own movie, his own world.
Yes. It could be like an Elseworlds kind of movie, just like how the Batman is, or maybe it'll be a part of the Batman.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Exactly. Yeah. And then, okay, you're thinking he's dead. I'm thinking, he does look like he's dead too. But then, I guess my question is, Clayface and Gorilla Grodd were essentially working with this girl, either in like a vision or in reality. Like, what are they a part of? Is it the Legion of Doom? I mean, I mentioned this last time too.
Yeah. Again, this is part of they teased this major thing, and it got diffused, and we just don't have all the information about it.
Right.
And again, I just really hope that we do find out more with it, and they flesh it out more, and it comes back in some form with other characters involved, or like you said, like somebody being possessed in a position of power that can do something like that. But I feel like they just resolved it so quick, and that was it. And it kind of left like a little bit of a hole there, but it didn't bother me that much.
Right.
Because everything else was so good.
Right. The backstory stuff. Right. Exactly. So then that brings up my last thing, which was what the fuck is the last thing I have on here? Oh, the new version of the team, right?
Yes.
So who's on the team? There's that girl with the bat wings, right?
Yeah. So we saw in the previous episode, and it was I guess it was episode 5. She was one of the ones that was bullying Nina.
Yeah.
What else was there? I mean, we saw Phosphorus and Weasel there. There was, the new and improved GI Robot, and there was another guy sitting on.
Yeah, I'll look him up too.
Yeah,
yeah, because the girl's got a name. I think her name's like Nosferatu or something, right? Let's see. But yeah, there's this one dude. Yeah, Nosferatu is the vampire woman. Then there's Kalis, who's like a mummy. That's the guy that was sitting there.
Okay.
And then, of course,
I think that's everybody then.
Well, and did you mention King Shark?
Oh, King Shark. Yes, King Shark. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, what'd you think of that?
I'm not surprised. I mean, King Shark was in the Suicide Squad. I do feel like I don't like that version as much as I like other versions I've seen of King Shark.
Harley Quinn.
But still, it's a nice connectivity between what still exists from the DCEU and what's still living on in the new one. I don't think that was Sylvester Stallone. I don't think he'll be back for that.
Yeah,
but it was a nice little Easter egg there.
Yeah. Did you read the King Shark comic by Tim Seeley?
I might have read the first issue, or I might have read a free comic book day version of it.
Yeah. I haven't read it, but like I love Tim Seeley, so I would check it out. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it's that cool kind of connective tissue. I guess he'll be on season 2, which we're gonna eventually get.
Yes, they did renew it for at least season 2. Whether that's the finale of it or not, I don't know, or when it can come out, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting that obviously the next thing we're gonna get is Superman.
Yes, I'm excited about that. Cool, man. Well, do you have anything else you want to say about Creature Commandos?
I guess not. No, it's just great show. Had a blast watching it. I initially thought 7 episodes was a little short, but it fits. It works.
Yeah.
Really no notes.
Hey, would you enjoy if they did a 7 Soldiers of Victory show? And because Frankenstein is one of the 7 soldiers in the modern version.
Yeah.
Would you be down if they did a 7 Soldiers of Victory show and it was weird, and then like each episode like this focused on one of the soldiers?
Yeah, totally would be down for that.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical if they would be able to work it with this version of Frankenstein.
Right. Good point.
But still, yeah, I like this. That little backstory chunk of each character in each episode.
Yeah.
And that was Grant Morrison, right?
That was Grant Morrison.
Yeah. I always want more Grant Morrison stuff. So yes.
Yeah, I would totally dig that show. I doubt they'll make that, but I just that was the first time I really saw Frankenstein in the DC universe was in 7 Soldiers of Victory. And then Clementine and I are actually big fans of Clarion the Witch Boy. He's one of them too, And then what do you call it? Zatanna is one of them, I think. Is she not?
I wonder if that's a newer iteration of it.
Is it Mr. Miracle? Maybe he's the one.
Maybe he's Mr. Miracle.
There's one like
main. I read that.
Yeah. Well, right, because they have like Bulleteer. She's this random character that shows up in that. They have Shining Knight, who is like a girl pretending to be a boy knight, and then they show up. So Frankenstein, Bulleteer, Shining Knight, Clarion the Witch Boy.
But that's the team that we read. There wasn't a much older version of it.
Oh yeah, of course. Grant Morrison's always doing that retro, bringing stuff back thing,
Yeah,
obscure references.
Oh yeah, Zatanna was in it. Yeah.
Okay. And then
I was with the Miracle.
Okay, so that kind of rounds him out, right? So then I think I'm I'm right. Frankenstein. Yeah, I don't know. I'd totally be down. And anytime I can get more Zatanna, and then just like since we're talking about comics so much, which we should be on Comic Books Transformed, I'm pretty sure that Frankenstein and Zatanna were both members of the Justice League Dark at one point too.
Yes, there were. Yeah, I still hold out hopes for a live action Justice League Dark or something focused on Zatanna and Constantine. I'll
Yeah.
take as much as I can get.
Hell yeah. Same here, man. So, well, we only did 2 episodes to cover this whole show, but I actually had a lot of fun talking about it with you.
Yeah.
And if you guys stuck around after that little gap of time where we're just not talking at all, thank you so much. Welcome to Comic Books Transform for 2025. Brian and I need to figure out what we're going to record next, but I think that our best of 2024 video is coming soon.
Yeah, we can definitely do that next. I think we floated around Skeleton Crew, which I heard is good. I have not watched it yet.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Craven.
Oh God, no. Aaron Taylor Johnson is in that Nosferatu movie.
Oh yeah,
and nobody seemed to like him in that either. So
I actually heard, although I didn't realize that Kick-Ass didn't make that much money, Craven made less than that movie.
Oh God, yeah.
I think like Kick-Ass.
Oh, I like Kick-Ass too. Yeah, and I think that Craven did worse than Madam Web, right?
Yeah, it did much worse than Madam Web. Yeah, it really went out with a whimper.
Yeah, Jesus. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. It was kind of cool that me and Brian kind of talked about random things too. And we always want y'all to be a part of the conversation too. So make sure you subscribe. You can comment, let us know what you thought. And guys, thank you so much for watching. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Boop.